on the computer. So thank you guys all. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for taking the time this morning to hop on. I'm going to talk a little bit about values today and finding and identifying our values. And it kind of piggybacks. I know some of the coaches were on a call and we talked about being able to like own your own voice, but really linking that to why is it important to know where we come from and what drives us. So I might be all over the place because as I was putting this together, I was like, there's a lot that gets tied into values. So I'm going to try to stay on track as much as possible, but I will definitely not go past 10 o'clock. And I'm going to try to give some time at the end just to talk. If there's anything like, as I'm talking, you're like, man, I really want to add to that. Please feel free, like use the chat, unmute yourself. Let me know, like because I'm going to share my screen, I probably won't be able to see all your faces, but like blow up the chat. Feel free to like, Shanice, if you want to take the lead, if somebody's like waving their like hand and trying to talk, like I'll let you guys know who's top on my list so I can like flag you down. But I think announcements for this week, if you're in the free group, this will be the last week of that. And then we'll transition into the Wholehearted Wellness group. If that's something that you're wanting to do. If you guys have any questions or anything else with nutrition, stuff comes up. I know everybody's been doing a really good job with meal planning and getting that stuff together. And I feel like everybody's on a good roll, but I don't always know. Because I know I'm somebody, if I'm having a hard time with something, I won't tell anybody. So everybody's like, Erica's fine. And then Erica's not fine because I won't ask for it. So if something like that comes up, let us know. We can definitely hop on a call and figure it out. And even if like, I don't have time, Shanice, Megan, Bree, any of the coaches really will be able to kind of like come together and figure out what we need to do to support you guys. So I'm going to go ahead because one of the things I want to say had a hard time with is I feel like whenever I say anything, it's always a collection of things I've heard from other people around me. And I think that's how we all form thoughts, opinions, like we collect information that we get from other people. But I'm, fun fact, a history major. And one of the things that you do when you're in history is you have to cite everything. Like I was terrified of plagiarizing anything. So because of that, like whenever I formed my own ideas, I was like, but this piece came from there and that piece came from there. And I was terrified to share it as my own because I felt like it wasn't my voice, not realizing that I can take information and conceptualize it and it becomes my thoughts and my ideas, but I still like to cite things. So I'm just going to go ahead and upfront like cite that half the resources that I'm going to use in this call are from Brene Brown. She has a training course. And like with that training course, you'll see me pull it up partway through the call today is like a list of values. So one of the things we're going to do, if you guys have something near you, you don't necessarily need something to write with, but like something to type into might be helpful too, because we're going to go and kind of like narrow down our core values as well. So just heads up front, because I hate like running and trying to grab something in the middle and like not feeling prepared. So like if you have to grab something, let me know. Shanice, always, this is my life. Chelsea gets it. It's like, and the rest of you are used to me, so you get it too. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Guys, I'm getting really good at sharing my screen too. I'm like proud of myself with this. Okay. Okay. So Shanice, I can see you. Nicole, I can see you too. So if somebody's trying to get my attention, the two of you are in my field of vision. So let me know because then I can like pay attention because I cannot see the chat right now. So today I wanted to take the time to talk about how do we connect with our core values. And I think one of the biggest things as far as connecting with our core values is we can't connect with something that we don't know what it is. Like if I have no idea what my values are and I haven't truly taken the time to sit with that, it's going to be really, really difficult for me to say, oh, well, when things get hard, this is why I show up. Knowing our values are so important because those core values are the things that are going to keep us going, keep us in the race when things get difficult. It's really, really easy. I know at the beginning of the year, we talked about coming in with all this motivation and this excitement and this fire. And Nicole, like on day one, when you started 75 hard, it's like, I'm going to do these 75 days. And on day one of 9-week control freak or day one of 21-day fix, it's, oh my God, like I got this, I'm going to do it. I have all this energy. And then you run full force at it. And then like by the end of week 2, or I think Katie, you had mentioned like day 10 is like usually you're like, you get there and you're like, like it was fun and it was exciting, but now I'm bored, or now I'm doubting myself and now I'm not sure that I've made the progress that I wanted to make. And we start second guessing. If we don't, if we haven't hitched our goals and our vision to our values, we're going to fall apart. Because if the only reason I want to show up is because I want to fit in my size, like whatever pants, like when I'm emotionally overwhelmed, it's not a value of mine to be able to fit in a certain like form of pants. Like that's not a driver for me. And so I'm going to be like, well, screw that. Like I'm going to go do this other thing instead. Or if one of my values is like quality time with my friends and family, like family is, if that's a value for me, and I haven't been able to prioritize both what it looks like for me to sustain a lifestyle that I have goals that are linked to and prioritize my family is going to outweigh any of those goals that I've set for myself. So it's figuring out how do we prioritize our values and then build everything else in around them. So one of the things, we have to know what drives us at our deepest levels, because like if we are doing something because we've been told that we need to be doing it. If we are driving ourselves out of a societal construct or out of the belief that our parents gave us or that our school gave us, all those things that we were told that we should do, we are eventually going to run out of steam. Because if it's not something that's life-giving for us, eventually we're going to hit a wall and we're going to be numb or empty, or we're going to be this shell that continues to give and give and give. And it's like, wait a second, why am I doing all these things that I've been told should make me feel a certain way? And they're not helping. They're not making me feel full. They're not making me feel purposeful. Because if we are, this is a process of learning to live from love. Like if we're living from love and doing things that we enjoy, that's very different from living from fear. For so long, I made all of my choices around what are other people going to think if I do this or I don't do this. And I wouldn't been able to consciously tell you that. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, man, like I went to college and then I went straight to grad school. Like I did that. Not that I regret doing that, because I don't, but I did that because it's what I was supposed to do. I did that because it was something that I was told, like, this is how you show that you are a competent individual. This is how you show that you care about other people. It's how you develop skills. And because I was so afraid of not appearing like competent or not living up to my like values and not living up to my worth, I did all these things without thinking about why I was doing them. And as I got older and I got into my career, I started to work 10 hours and then 12 hours and then 14 hours and then 16 hours. And some of that was in work and some of that was coming home and doing extra work, because I launched into a career where it was impossible to know every modality and know every single piece of information all at once, because life is a learning process. No matter what career we go into, there's going to be pieces that we learn and experience along the way. And so I came out as a brand new therapist and was like, I need to know CBT and DBT, and I need to know how to do IPT, and I need to know how to do EMDR, even though I'm like not anywhere near ready to be credentialed or trained for that. And I need to know all of these things, because if I don't, I'm not going to be good enough and I might fail somebody. And so I threw myself into learning and learning and learning and learning out of the fear that I would fail to show up in a way that was appropriate or necessary for somebody else, all the time thinking that it was my value of being competent that was driving that. And I never actually took the time to sit and think about, why do I show up every day? Why is this important to me? And I continue to feel this disconnect between, I want to live a healthy lifestyle. I want to be able to work out. I want to feel connected to other people, but I keep throwing all of this stuff into my job and I don't feel any of those things. And every single time I try to sustain a workout program, guys, I started 21 Day Fix in 2016. I did 21 Day Fix. I did 21 Day Fix Extreme. I did half of PIO. And then I fell off Nicole's laughing because she did PIO with me. I literally, like, I think I did the first week and a half of PIO. And to this day, that is the only program that I have not finished. And I have tried to do that more times than I've tried to do 80-day obsession, actually. Like, I failed 80-day obsession. It wasn't until the third time that I went all the way through. I still have not done PIO all the way through, period. And I was so angry at myself because I had all of these competing things that I wanted to do, but I wasn't able to prioritize what I wanted and what I needed in that moment. So our values are so important because they are the things that make us willing to do something that is uncomfortable in the first place. If we're not going to shift our patterns, our behavior, our action, if there's not some reason that it is more important to us to change that behavior than stay where we are. Change happens when the level of discomfort where we are is greater than the level of discomfort that might happen where we're going. Something has to get us to change. And somebody asked in the free group that we had the other day, like, I want to know more about how to stay consistent. Like, how do you keep going when things get hard? The answer to that, like, is you have to know why you showed up in the first place. And so as we keep going through this, think about, why are you here? Like, what is it? And sometimes that's a really dark, sometimes that's what brought you here. I'm here because I got to a point where I felt empty. I didn't know who I was. I felt disconnected from everybody around me. I was being told that I shouldn't feel that way because when you look at me from the outside, I have everything that you think I should have, and nobody saw that. I am here because I didn't feel seen, because I wouldn't allow myself to be seen by others because I was so uncomfortable where I was. What, Shanice?
I just wanted to also add in, because what you're saying is so true. And I wrote something in the chat and then I was like, oh, Erica can't see the dang chat. So,
Nope.
like, your why and your values need to be connected and like deeply rooted to you.
Mhm.
And that was hard to, to come to terms with. It's not connected to your parents. It's not connected to your friends or your coworkers. And once you realize that, it can be so hard to get to that point of being like, who am I? That's just individually and happily Shanice or Erica. And that may take years to figure out. And it's totally okay if you don't know that right now, or if you don't know that tomorrow, as long as the why as to what started you in this path anyways is bigger than what Erica was just talking about and being comfortable. Then one day you'll get to that point where you're like, it's totally okay that my values don't connect to my parents' values, or like my values don't connect to my friends' values. However, we can connect in different ways, and that's what makes us human and together and part of this really big community that we have. So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but
No, that's okay. And we definitely will, like, as we go through values. And I think that's an important thing to hold, is being curious about, what do I believe because I've been told that I believe it? What do I assume is true just because it's always been presented as true? And does that truly resonate with me? Do I want to, a long time ago, we talked about, who was I before anybody told me who I should be? What are the beliefs that I've put in my pantry that, like, what's the, like, tuna that's been sitting in there since like 2007 that somebody just put in there? So I assumed it was there. I knew it was there, and that's how it always was. And do I want to keep it there? Because just because we were taught that something was true, or taught that something was what should be our priority, doesn't mean that that's true for us. And it's taking the time. And it is, like, it's, Shanice, I'm glad that you pointed out, it's, we're not going to get off this call. Like, we're going to look at those values and they're going to morph and change. And it takes intention to sit with them. I know Nicole put up a post yesterday about sitting and writing down, where do I want to be in 5 years, in 10 years? And is my action linked to that vision? And I think it's even like back before that, is my vision linked to my values? And are my actions getting me towards where I want to be? So living into our values means, because once we identify them, we have to live them. You can't be like, this is not just something on a piece of paper where you're like, oh, like, I live with, like, my core values are love and integrity, or I'm compassionate and, like, I do things honestly. Okay, fantastic. You can say that, but you also have to walk that. Like you have to practice them, because if it truly is your value, I think this is the thing when we identify them, if we identify something and we know it is true in our core, but then we're living outside of our values, there is constantly going to be dissonance within ourselves between who I want to be and how I am acting. And a lot of, I think that is a time when it's important to be like, when I'm not living into my values, I start engaging in behaviors that are not comfortable for me. And that is an indicator for me that I'm living outside my values. Am I chronically angry at myself? Am I chronically resentful? Am I chronically like not doing the things that I want to be doing and say that I should be doing for myself? That's usually an indicator where I'm like, okay, well, what are my actions looking like and do they match my values? Um, yes. So not having that clarity of our values means that when somebody else, and Shanice, I think this is where some of that, our values not aligning with those that were instilled in us by our parents can be really important, or those that are external to us. Because as you walk in your journey, whether it's your fitness journey, your nutrition journey, or a career journey, or even just any other journey that can be thrown at you in life, there are going to be people that don't agree with what you're doing. They might be people that are in the nosebleed seats and they have no say in your life and you don't know who they are. And it's this random person that's watching your Instagram and like you don't even know that they're thinking that. And at that point, again, I think sometimes like those people, we build them up so much in our brain and we are scared about what those people that we don't even can put a name or a face to are saying, that we allow it to derail where we want to be and what we want to do. And so there's the nosebleed seat people, but there's also people that are close to us. And I know part of my story is that when I was finishing 80-day obsession, like actually doing it the whole way through for the first time, one of my greatest fears was that I would trigger somebody else, was that I would make somebody else feel uncomfortable because of the way I was living. And I held the fear within me that if I upset somebody else, that it would stop me from doing what I wanted to do because I was a people pleaser. I still combat that within me. If I make somebody else feel uncomfortable, I inherently feel like I did something wrong. I feel like I am bad. I feel like I am nasty, that I was negligent. All of those emotions come up within me. So if I'm doing something and somebody else responds in a way that is them being upset, not even them being angry at me, them being upset and them feeling shame because of their feelings about my actions, it has a history of derailing me. And at the very end of my 80-day obsession journey, the first time, my best friend in the entire world sent me a text message while I was at work. And she knew that I was at work. And she sent me a text message that said, I can't be around you. You are not living in a healthy way. I think that you are restrictive and disordered, and you are too obsessed and focused on your workouts. And I had to check myself because I have a history of that. I have a history of all of those things. And there is a time I remember reading that message, and instead of immediately going into crisis mode, I remember stopping and thinking, Erica, you're healthy right now. For the first time in your life, your mindset is healthy. You are not overworking and you are eating in a way that is fueling your body. And I knew that was true because I knew that I was connected to my values. And I also was able to trust myself because my values, my action, and my vision were all aligned. And did it hurt? Yes. And if I had not been able to stop in that moment and reflect on my values, I would have stopped in a second because my response would have been, oh my God, I am so sorry. I need to change what I'm doing because it's making you uncomfortable. And I think that is why this is so important because you're going to make other people uncomfortable. You've always made people uncomfortable in some way. You just might not have known it. And the thing is, if you can be connected and you know why you're showing up every day, that gives you the power to be able to look at them and say, I hear what you're saying. And this is where I'm coming from. Because otherwise, those cynics, those critics, they're going to bring you to your knees and you're going to walk away from the ring because they didn't like the fact that you were in the ring to begin with, or they didn't like your level of performance in that ring for some reason that most likely has nothing to do with you. So we are going to start kind of digging into the values. And this was a quote that I had found that really stuck with me. And it's something that I keep on the back burner in my mind because I am a master of like my to-do list every day is a little bit excessive. And when I say a little bit excessive, I mean like frequent, like I've had to come to terms with the fact that my to-do list is flexible. And I literally structure it as like, these are things that need to get done. These are things that can get done, because I used to put it all on one list and say, this all needs to get done. And I felt like I was failing every day. So if you're that person that puts too much on your to-do list, I had to come to Jesus with myself. Yeah, Nicole, I see you over there. Like I had to come to Jesus where I was like, must do, can do. And like cognitively, that really helped me because then I wasn't like, why the F didn't you finish everything on this list? Because Erica, you're like absurd and not like a machine. But the thing here is when we go through our values today, we're going to try to narrow them down or start. You actually do this in a two-step narrow. Because the first time you're going to go through this list and probably find 15 values that align with you. And if you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities. Because if at some point, if everything on that list is important, nothing is a driver. If you are doing 15 different things at a time, you are going to do none of them as well as you would if you focused on 1, 2, or 3. We cannot be in 15 places at once. You can be in one place at once. Some people, and I would be one of those people, would argue, I can do 2 or 17 things effectively at one time together. I don't care how many times I tell myself I damn well cannot. And if I'm sitting across from somebody else, I am not going to be present in that moment with them or with myself. So as we go through this list, there are 3 things that are really, really important. We are looking for things that are most important to you. As you read through this list, pay attention to your gut that says, that feels like me. That feels like me. That feels like something that when I don't know what to do, that is what I reach for. I reach for, I'm like avoiding trying to tell you what my values are because it comes to number 3. Like when we see somebody else have values, we're going to be influenced by that. It can make it really hard for us to choose what our values are for ourselves. But say my value is courage. Am I living with my full heart and showing up in a way that is putting bravery and courage at the forefront? Like, is my whole heart in it? And so if that courage is my value and I'm like, I don't know what to do, the check I might go to is my heart in this? Is this a hell yes? And if it's not a hell yes, that means it's no. Because courage means, like, it comes from the word cur, which literally means like with heart. Like that is where the root of the word courage comes from. I also was a Latin minor in college. So like, fun fact, I'm a therapist with a history major and a Latin minor. Don't know how that happened. I also took sociology, so I do know how that happened. But the last thing on here, I think, is what Shanice talked to earlier. And it was the hardest thing for me because the first time I sat down and did this, almost every single thing I put on that list, I realized when I went back through it, I put on that list because I was told that it was good. I was told that it was what I should be and what a good person looked like and what a holy Catholic looked like, because I was raised Catholic and like I did have a lot of beliefs instilled in me. And I very much grew up internalizing the belief that I had to give from my need, almost to the point of being a martyr, which got me in some really shitty and really scary situations really damn fast. Because at the end of the day, like it was self-sacrificial love always, but I wasn't helping myself first. So resist, like kind of think about what are the things that I've been told are good. Are you told that you have to work harder all the time? Are you told that you can't take a break? Are you told that strong people help others? Are you told that important people have big label careers? Are you told that you have the best things, or you buy the best things, or you give everything to others? What are the things that you were taught were true? And resist holding on to those words that resemble something that you've been coached to believe are true. Because just because you've been coached to believe it's true doesn't mean that it's true for you. And so I'm going to switch over, pull up the list, but ask. I'm just going to see if I can figure out how to keep, not what I wanted to do. Keep this up so you can see both at once. Because these are the questions that you're going to ask as you go through it. Does it define me? Is this who I am at my best? And is this a filter that I use to make hard decisions? Don't mind me trying to work the computer. Okay. If I disconnect the call, which I'm going to try real hard not to do, just get back on. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. So I cannot keep both of them up at the same time, and you guys still see this, but take a second, actually take a little bit. I'm going to give us, it's about 9:30 now. I was going to put on music, but I actually think I'm going to keep it silent. Sit with this list. Can I see thumbs up if you can see the list? Okay. Sit with this list. I'm going to go through the chat a little bit. Go through and for the first 5 minutes, bullet point anything that resonates with you in your, like, you look at it and you're like, that feels like me, even if it's more than 2. So let me mute myself. I'm going to let you guys go through that. And I'm going to read the chat. Okay, I'm gonna give just a couple more, probably about 30 more seconds, unless, give me a thumbs up if you're good. Give me a thumbs down if you need more than a minute. Okay. I'm like, I figured out how to get the chat up, so now I can see the chat. Okay, even if you're still going through, we're gonna pause a little bit and I'm gonna give more time. Like, we're gonna go back, we're gonna revisit it again. But I wanna I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a little bit and I'll reshare it again in a second. But okay, if you guys wanna unmute yourselves for a couple minutes. Nicole, I know you said you had quite a few. So what did you guys notice as you went through that and chose? What did you notice as you were picking out different values?
Mine were all geared to supporting other people.
What were some? Shanice, do you feel comfortable sharing some of yours that you listed?
Yeah. Like leadership and sportsmanship. And I have, can you put the list back up? Sorry, Erica.
Yes.
There was like power or self-love, or hold on.
Yeah, there we go. Can you guys see it now?
Yes. Okay. So equality, diversity, service, belonging. I mean, all of those all have to do with other people. I mean, it does have to do with me, but I feel like giving back. And then I also had like self-respect and grace, gratitude, honesty, which I feel like those really resonate with myself. But a lot of them have to do with supporting and helping other people, because I find value in making other people happy, and supporting other people. And sometimes that can be really bad, because then I no longer am filling my own cup, sometimes to a point where I'm supporting so many other people that I forget that I need to go back and have a little bit more self-respect and pour into myself. So definitely a thing to continue learning.
And that definitely, like, I know I'm looking at, I have actually my book from the first time I did it. Like, this is why I can't have library books. Like, if anybody can like literally see, like, it's bad. But yeah, I have connection, courage, making a difference, honesty, balance, a lot. Compassion was one that came up a lot for me, going through that. And I actually put faith on here, which is really interesting. And I look at that list now, and I actually hadn't looked at that before. Like, I haven't looked at that in probably a year. And it's really interesting because that's totally something that I was coached to believe, and not something that really truly is mine. But it's only really looking at that a year later that I can see that. And Shanice, I think like you noticing kind of the general theme in that allows you to see like, okay, why am I so driven to help others? And now it's figuring out like, how do you narrow that down to really what comes from you? Did anybody else have anything interesting, like patterns or just anything that they noticed while they were going through that? I'll leave the list up.
So I did mine, and I've done this before because I read the book and everything like that. And my whole list is different from the first time that I did it. So like, that was kind of cool. Cause like my first list that I made was definitely like, don't get me wrong, some of my values are still the same, like, but it was like all geared towards helping other people. But like my list now is more geared towards like myself and like what I hold true, and like how I can fill my cup and how I can do and hold the values that are closest to me there, while still like helping other people, because like that's how I have the strength and the energy to help other people. So
what do you feel like that says about what does that say about your first list?
my first list was what I was it was more of like what I was coached to believe and to like hold value to. And not that I don't hold value in those things, but they aren't as high ranked on my list anymore.
Well, I'll ask you once we narrow it down a little bit. I had another question, but I'll hold on to it.
Okay.
Nicole, you said a lot of yours like piggybacked off of each other.
Yeah, I find that a lot of mine kind of come back to balance, which is something I think I've struggled with for most of my life. So like I have balance and freedom, and then I have like travel and stuff like that. But then I think it's either it comes to balance or it comes to like making a difference or service. Like I think all of mine kind of fall into those two, or maybe balance and connection. Like they all kind of fall into those two, or and fall into those two.
And that's exactly, so I'm going to give us a couple minutes again to sit with it. Look at the patterns that you have and ask yourself, is this from me or is this from somebody else? But see, like, so with Nicole, I think that's a really, really good example in particular, because it's like travel could very well go under freedom. Like that core might be like, do I have the freedom to go to live how I want, where I want, with who I want? Like what do those smaller ones tie into? Because I know like even Brene, like she talks about like she had a really hard time not circling family on hers. But for her, like family went into like courage and being able to show up in a way that was with her full heart. And like, so some of those things that are important to us, like on here, like I have trust, honesty, authenticity. They are all incredibly important to me. And one of my core values, now that you guys have gone through it, I'll tell you, my core values are integrity and wholeheartedness. And for me, honesty, trust, connection, authenticity, those all, even competence, for me, those go into, am I choosing courage over comfort and doing what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy? Because if I'm being honest, if I'm trustworthy, if I am being the best that I can be, if I am being altruistic, I am living with integrity. And for me, when I ask myself, like, do I want to do this? It's, am I choosing courage over comfort and doing that instead of what is fun, fast, and easy? And like, there's like this waterfall of things that, I mean, literally almost anything for me can link to that value for myself, and the rest of mine like fall into wholeheartedness. Hence,
Erica, do you mind if I kind of speak to what you just said?
yes, absolutely.
Like what you said, like literally I was just looking at my list and like I had honesty and humility, and then I just like drew an arrow and like put it to integrity. And I have like service, wholeheartedness, health, and honesty. And like what you said, actually while I was going through the list, I actually made like a not section on the right. And I just had the like, and this like this, you guys all know this is all very new for me. Like I'm still very new to this community, but like the things that I was told throughout my whole life, that like being the best that you can be, like you have to get straight A's, like you have to go to college, like like my brother, perfect example, wanted to be an artist. I loved photography. I wanted to be a photographer, and I was told like that's not the right career path. You're never going to make money. You can't do that. And not that I don't love my like life. I don't love what I have now, but when I was going through it, there were like things that like, so just to give you guys some example, achievement, ambition, being the best, career, connection, and financial stability are on my not list. And like, which sounds, my husband's in the room, he's gonna be like, financial stability is not on your like value list. Like those are things that have been like ingrained into me, that like, that's what you have to be, Hannah. And like, that's what I like outwardly portray to the world, that like I have this ambition, like I went to, sorry, it's my dog, that I went to grad school because that's what you're supposed to do. And it's like everything you're saying just like resonating. And like, I'm so grateful that I went and got my master's, and like, I'm grateful for the career that I have, but like the things that are important to me are not what people have put on me growing up, like, you know. And I think that's from like where my family came from and like the things that we went through, but like, that's what they put on me. And that was like, for me to succeed, that's what they wanted. And the things that are important to me are not what people see on the outside. And just like everything that you're saying, I'm like, literally Erica's like a mirror of me right now. Like, that's just how I feel. But I just wanted like, I didn't mean to share, but like,
no,
I
I'm
had a
glad.
not list that like those words were just like flagging to me, that like, it just like brought up a little bit of like fire and frustration as I saw them. And I actually like wrote them down because they like were making me annoyed to see them, and like that I even considered putting them on my list.
I love that you did that, Hannah. I think that we should make a not list and like lists where people have put their own like opinions and stuff and like whatever, 100%, because yes, everything that you said, yes.
And I love that you share, because I was like going down, I'm like scrolling down. I'm like, who else like wants to talk and like make space to talk? Because that's, gosh, like the fact that you recognize that that's what the resistance to those words was telling you was, it's that like, I describe it, I make noises and it's like, like that feeling that I get when I see something and I'm like, that's usually a flag to me. And I'm like, it's always a flag to be like, Erica, what is it about this situation that like, you don't want that? Like, what is coming up for you? How was it for you to realize, like, to see those things and have that resistance to them?
I feel like I have kind of been struggling with that a lot in probably like the last couple of months in general, and like coming and like reaching out to Megan was part of me realizing that like I can't do it on my own. Like I'm not somebody that has to have that drive. Like it's okay for me to lean on others. It's okay for me to not be that person. It's I don't know. Like I feel like I'm like getting a little red and puffy, but like I know that like the person that I'm outwardly portraying isn't actually who I feel like I am inside. I'm sorry to start getting a little emotional. I don't know
No, it's
why.
okay.
But like I'm not the like stop. My husband's in the room too. But
You're like,
I'm
stop
not
looking
this
at
like
me.
outwardly driven, like the ambition isn't always there, and it's something that I fake because that's what I was told I'm supposed to be.
It's exhausting to feel that we have to be a mold that we were told was important. And because we put that face on, nobody sees who we really are.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, Hannah, like when you getting emotional is going to make me get
I'm so
emotional. I'm like,
sorry. I'm
no,
so
no, no, no,
sorry.
no. It's
Me too.
honestly, emotion is hard for me to sit in because I have always been taught to hold other people's emotions. And then I feel like when I have my own and other people people panic. I was telling Shanice this yesterday. When I have big emotions, people panic because usually they're so used to me being so even keel that when I'm not, they're like, I don't know how to handle this situation because this never happens. But it never happens because I never allow it to happen. But then when I see people react to how I'm feeling, I clamp down on my emotions and I'm like, I can't feel that way. They're having a reaction. Because I've been taught that I need to be the one to support. And it's so like that, Hannah, that like loneliness is the word that I keep thinking about because it feels, I remember feeling such dissonance talking about I feel isolated because I was like, oh my God, what are the people that care about me and love me? How are they going to feel that I'm saying I'm isolated and they feel like, am I going to make them feel like they're not enough? And
That's where it hits for me.
Yeah.
Is like making other people feel guilty. Like they're not giving me enough support. Like when I say like, oh, I still feel lonely and I feel like I'm like on the outskirts and I'm by myself. Like I feel like that is going to make others feel like they are not valuable enough. And also try not to cry with Hannah right now. So
I think
that's it.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and I posted it the other day and then I like thought about it again yesterday, like we can only be as connected to others as we allow ourselves to be to ourselves. Because if we are not connected to ourselves and we don't allow ourselves to be seen in a room, nobody else ever has the chance to see us. So we feel invisible because they can't see who we really are. But then we hold that fear of what happens if I allow them to see who I am? Because what if they don't like me when I show up and I'm not I'm not necessarily that we're not financially stable. We're not financially stable. We're not driven. How are they going to feel when we're not focused on those things? How are the people that love us and care about us going to handle that? And then Shanice, like, I know like you're going to talk about this week a little bit. Like sometimes the people we love most, we take away those things and those labels and they're like, wait a second, I don't like this. Like I very much, like one of mine was leadership. And leadership and friendship and giving back. And when I started setting boundaries around my time and saying, I won't do that, there were people that were like, well, do you not care as much anymore? Are you not willing to do that? And then I felt like that was a judgment on my ability to be a good person. And I think that is what has been so helpful. I mean, Hannah, even hearing you say that makes me feel connected. And it's this reminder that like how many of us have been taught that we need to be the rock and we can't show what we're feeling because somebody else might have feelings about it.
I think also that if we if we don't sit with these, we end up starting to resent those words and those feelings, you know. And even if you do have the same core value as like your mom or someone, and you end up like feeling that, and it's just something that has been pushed onto you, you're like, no, I don't want this anymore. You know what I mean? And then you start to push that away. And even just that little like instant of like, no, like this is enough, I can't handle it, can be enough for you to realize that it is very uncomfortable to like have to figure out who you are independently from all of those people that you connect with. And it doesn't mean that you can't share the same connection with them and have the same value, right? So I'm going to give a little funny story here. I grew up super Catholic, super Catholic. And I did it because my grandparents wanted me to. And when it came down to like sports and stuff in high school, my grandparents were like, you can do sports, but you have to go to Sunday school. And then when it came down to me doing like travel volleyball and I couldn't go to Sunday school, I got kicked out of Sunday school. And my grandparents were very disappointed in the fact that I couldn't finish out and get confirmed into the Catholic Church for whatever reason. They didn't even practice. It was just something that was instilled to them too, you know, like it's just like this old thing. So then when I'm looking at colleges, I'm like, I gotta go to a college that's gonna be enough for my grandparents and make my grandparents happy and make my family happy. And I ended up at a freaking Catholic college. and it was great. And I enjoyed going to mass and I even got confirmed there, but I didn't go to that school because it was like a school that was like burning inside of my heart and I felt I needed to be there. I think that the values of that school were based in the values of my family. And I don't regret it any bit because I freaking love PC and I'm a friar for life. But just thinking about it and going back to it, now I go to like a Christian church and I love that. And I think it's very different from a Catholic church. And we like worship and like pray out loud and do all this very uncomfortable stuff. But like, I feel like my relationship with God now is like way deeper than what it could have been going to a Catholic church. And that was because it's on me, right? So like faith could have been something that I would have put down as a value a long time ago. And it's still something that I put down as a value today, but it's because it has changed. And so you can have that value still rooted inside of you and have it be a value that you share with your family. And also it can change and it can become fluid with who you are and how you continue to grow and how you become fluid as a person. So what I wanted to say is don't push those things away just because they're on your no list, because they end up might becoming part of your yes list eventually. And it's going to be because of you and you making it be that way and you changing it for yourself, and it's not going to have anything to do. It's not going to have any ties to your family. And you can still relate to your family and connect with your family on that level and be able to have open conversation about why it resonates with you and no longer resonates to what old Shanice, Catholic faith Shanice was like versus what this new Christian, faith is like with my family. I mean, we're not getting married in a freaking Catholic church. And I think my grandparents and Ryan's grandparents, Irish Catholic grandparents, were like, what the F? Why aren't you guys getting married in a Catholic church? Like, what is going on? And so we had to have that conversation of like, it's just not for us, and faith is important to us, but that type of faith is no longer important to us. So that was very long-winded, but there's my story.
That's okay. And I love that you shared the part about the church, because you were connected enough to your values to be able to have that conversation with your grandparents and his grandparents. And to be completely honest, looking back on it, it was important to me to get married in the Catholic Church, but it was more important to me to not upset my family. And to this day, like, honestly, like, again, like, I don't want to say I regret it, but I think that if I really truly had been connected to my values, we would have made a different choice. Like, we got married in the church, and like, looking back, I'm not sure that that's something that we would have done. And Chelsea, yes, taking the power back over the things that we have come to resent or have become resistant to is so freeing. And I think that the ability to make a choice that we know comes from ourselves, the freedom and the agency to be able to choose for ourselves, is incredibly impactful, because when we live in a place of powerlessness, we live in a place of fear. And part of living from love, like making choices for love instead of from fear, is taking back power and control, which is taking back agency in our own lives. So I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to pull you guys all up so I can see your lovely faces again, because I don't want to, like, I want to respect your time, and I want to, like, just stay within the hour. But Katie, did you have anything you wanted to say or that stuck with you? Totally okay if you don't, but I wanted to give you a chance to also.
Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted and my dog's being psycho. Actually, a lot of it did resonate. So I've talked about this kind of at length during our coaching call a couple of weeks ago about my dad being in the military and a lot of those values being deep rooted in who I am as a person. But come to find out, a lot of them are not. And they would definitely be on my not list these days if I were to write them down. So I'm still exploring all of that.
And it takes time. And I think that's one of the biggest things is take this with you. I will post the recording in the group. I will also post the slideshow and the values list in the group so you guys can sit with the list and go through it. I would recommend, if you have time, sit with it, go through it again. And there's actually an exercise to help you narrow it down. I'll put that up in the group too, so you have it. And like, if you want to post your reflections on that, go for it. If not, like, hold it. And like I said, like, I looked at this list and I could tell where I was at on my journey when I did this list the first time, because I think even some of the ones I chose because that's what personal development was telling me I should choose. Like, I'd let go of what my parents said I should choose. But I can see on here, like, oh, like, this is what, like, Brene Brown would say I should choose. And it wasn't until I truly sat with it, or like Gabby Bernstein, like, when I finally sat with it, I mean, wholeheartedness and integrity they are at my core for me. And I know that, but it took me months and months and months of going back to this damn list, because I freaking hated the stupid thing, because I just wanted to be able to, like, put them on a piece of paper, and I couldn't figure it out right away. And that self-reflection, it is a journey, and it turns and it morphs. And I think one of the biggest things to take away is sit with those values, because they're the things that are going to keep you going when it gets hard. And they're the things that live inside you. And it's what helps you make choices for love instead of from fear. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Enjoy your days, whatever you're doing. And I'll be hanging out over here. And Shanice is talking next week. So we'll see you guys next Sunday.
Oh yeah, about the power of community. Join us.
Bye, guys.